I used to live in an old townhouse in the middle of the city. My name is Olivia, and this happened about 5 years ago. My place had 1 bedroom and 1.5 bathrooms. It wasn't the best, but I didn't mind it. I lived on the 2nd floor, and there were lots of other tenants in the building. Several months after I moved in, I got a new neighbor, Henry. From the beginning, Henry was a creep. The first time we met was strange enough. I was leaving my townhouse and walking down the corridor when he came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, startling me. He introduced himself awkwardly, saying he lived next door. I thought he might just be socially awkward, but after speaking to him a few more times, he didn't seem shy at all. In fact, the next time I saw him, he was just standing in the hallway, not seeming to go anywhere. When I left my place, he approached me and asked if I wanted to come over to his. I declined, saying I was busy. After this, Henry tried asking me out a couple of times whenever he saw me in the hallway, but I said no each time. He struck me as odd and creepy. All these interactions happened within the first month he lived there, and it was getting annoying because it seemed like almost half the time I left my place, he would follow or be in the hallway. One night I was in my townhouse and needed to take out the trash. We didn't have a trash chute, so we had to walk down to the basement. I put on my flip-flops, left my place, and walked to the basement. I was gone for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. When I returned to my townhouse and went back inside, it was late and I was tired. I decided to get ready for bed, planning to watch some shows in bed. I started turning off all the lights in my place. As I passed by my storage closet, I was sure I heard a noise inside. It was very weird. The last thing I expected was a person to be in there. But when I opened the door, there was Henry standing right inside. I jumped back and ran to my bedroom. Henry emerged from the closet and started chasing me. I slammed my bedroom door shut but didn't have enough time to lock it. Henry was there within seconds, starting to open the door. I had a half bath attached to my bedroom and ran for that door. I got inside and shut the door just in time before Henry reached it. This door had a different lock, and I managed to lock it just before he tried opening it. He then started banging on the door. Fortunately, I had my cell phone in my pocket. I dialed 911 as fast as I could. Neither Henry nor I said anything during this time. After trying to open the bathroom door multiple times, Henry started banging on it. I finally spoke, yelling that I had called the police. I talked to the 911 operator, telling her exactly what was going on. Henry finally walked away from the bathroom door, but I couldn't tell if he had left my townhouse or was just in another room. I stayed hidden in the bathroom, feeling like I was waiting forever until the police showed up. When they arrived, I finally came out of the bathroom, but Henry was nowhere in my townhouse. I told the police where he lived, right next door. Henry had left, but eventually the police located him. Apparently he had similar trouble in the past and had a history. I hadn't locked my door when I took out the trash that night. Henry must have just walked right in and hid in my closet. I'm glad I found him when I did, even though it was one of the scariest moments of my life. I live alone in a small cottage in a quiet village. I've been here for a couple of years and my neighbors are mostly friendly. Last year, though, I hardly ever saw my neighbor to the north, an older man named Mr. Thompson. I'd only seen him a couple of times. His yard bordered mine, so I would have noticed if he ever went outside, but he never did. It was a bit mysterious, but I didn't think much of it. One night I was at home and it was quite late. I was getting my things ready for the next day when I realized I couldn't find my phone. After searching for a few minutes, I thought I might have left it in my car. My car was parked in the driveway, so I left the house and walked outside. It was very dark and eerily quiet. I went to my car, opened the driver's door, and found my phone on the seat. I picked it up and started to head back inside. As I did, I noticed Mr. Thompson standing in his yard not far away, watching me. It seemed odd for him to be out so late, and I had no idea what he was doing. I turned and walked back up my driveway to the house, feeling uneasy. Once inside, I put my phone on the kitchen counter where I usually kept it. As I was about to leave the kitchen, I glanced out the window and saw Mr. Thompson in my yard. He had walked over and was now standing next to the driveway. I wondered what he was doing in my yard. Then he walked right up to my window and started peering inside. It was really strange. He didn't wave or acknowledge me, just stared in my direction. Then he crouched down suddenly. I didn't know what to make of it, so I left the room feeling unsettled. A few minutes later, I returned to the kitchen to see if he had left. He hadn't. He was now at another window, still looking in. I wasn't sure if he could see me, so I moved back and peeked around the corner. He just stood there, staring into the window for what felt like 5 minutes. Finally, he moved away. I watched him go back to his yard and then into his house. I was so confused by the whole situation. I went to bed unsure of what to do. After that, I didn't see Mr. Thompson for months. Since then, I've only seen him a couple of times and have never brought up what happened. To this day, I still don't know what he was doing that night. This happened when I was a kid, around 10 years old. My name is Alex, and I lived with my parents and 2 siblings in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Our house was average-sized, surrounded by other similar houses. We often played in the front or backyard. One day I was alone in the front yard playing with a soccer ball. I kicked it too hard and it rolled into the street. Our street was usually quiet, with not many cars passing by. My parents had always told me not to leave the yard, but I wanted to retrieve the ball. I ran after it as it rolled down the street. When I got to the ball, I noticed a man standing near the sidewalk a few houses down. He walked over and picked up the ball. There were a few cars parked on the side of the road, and it looked like the man had just gotten out of one. I went a bit closer, thinking he would toss the ball back to me. He waved at me and held onto the ball, motioning for me to come over. I hesitated, but walked towards him. When I got close, he asked if it was my ball, and I said yes. Then he unlocked the car parked nearby and tried to get me to go inside. He got into the driver's seat, opened the back door, and tossed the ball into the back seat. He motioned for me to get in, but I knew better. I turned and ran back towards my house, heart pounding. He didn't chase me, and when I got back to the front yard, I stopped and watched him drive away in the opposite direction. I ran inside and told my mom what had happened. She went outside, but the guy was long gone. She called the police, but I couldn't give them many details. I didn't know the license plate or even what kind of car it was. The man got away with my ball, but more importantly, he didn't kidnap me. A couple of years later, when I was about 12 or 13, I was walking through our neighborhood. I rarely went to the street 1 block over, but that day I did. As I passed a house, I saw a man in the yard. He looked familiar, and I realized he might be the same guy from a few years ago. I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't say anything. To this day, I still think it was him, but I'll never know for sure.